Ignition sequence start. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Liftoff. We have a liftoff.
Hey everybody, this is the Digital Asset Investor, and it is Friday, and I'm ready for a glass of Chardonnay, to be honest with you. You know, a lot of my friends make fun of me because I'm not a beer drinker. I like Chardonnay on a Friday night, but I also like margaritas. Now that's a little more manly, I guess, or maybe not. I don't know. Anyway, today was a big day. Today was a good day. Okay, wanted to show you this first. This is from Empower, and that's the organization, the nonprofit, I think, out of D.C., who had filed a Freedom of Information Act request against the SEC, and it said, and then the SEC had basically tried to do some kind of, it was some kind of fee request or something. Anyway, they won the appeal of the erroneous SEC fee decision. Must be treated as a media requester in seeking ethics records of senior officials. And so it says this victory ensures Empower Oversight will be able to pursue full production of all responsive documents without exorbitant search fees that could otherwise have been imposed. So that's going to be interesting. Then the Gold Telegraph had put this out. SEC may be investigating Tether and Tether Operations Limited, a Freedom of Information Act request found. Then there's this. Okay, now I haven't been through this, but I'm going to go through it. The other day I was telling you about this this audio or video that had disappeared. June 14th, 2018, the same day as the William Hinman speech, Valerie Chapinick and these other people, this guy from the SEC, and then these other people from CFTC, and anyway, they did a meeting. They had a meeting at this SECGATE crypto, and nobody could find the video. Well, somebody found the video. Somebody always finds the video, folks. At some point, we're going to find that video of Bill Hinman at that Tech GC. Who knows how we might find that video, but at some point we'll find it. So Crypto Law, John Deaton's law firm, had clipped this part out. This is Valerie Chapinick.
Then, if we have something concrete, we can act on that, or in the form of no action relief or exemptive relief. And that's one path that I'm laying out, but there are obviously others, and I think a lot of guidance will be given out in speeches and statements, and because we're not trying to regulate a situation that's hypothetical.
Okay. So a lot of the same day of the Bill Hinman speech, she said a lot of guidance will be handed out with speeches. Okay? So there you go. Then Tom Emmer today, today China's central bank had said that all cryptocurrency related transactions are illegal. So that's no big surprise out of China. Of course, China wants to ban anything that might be currencies they can't control. So, but just to reiterate, even though the market went down as a result of this today, I've seen in the news China banning cryptocurrencies now, I think about 8 to 10 times. And Tom Emmer says open, permissionless, private. If China bans it, you know it's something worth fighting for. Exactly. And then Mr. Intuitive, who is the official cool guy of the Digital Asset Investor channel, sent this from R3. We're excited, and I haven't even looked at the comments under here, but we're going to look while I'm doing this video because it's probably fun. I'm sure R3 will be like, man, this guy's hated. R3, we're excited to announce that Jay Clayton of Sullivan and Cromwell and former chairman of the SEC will be joining us for CortiCon 2021. Let's see what people in the comments section had to say about Jay Clayton. Well, this guy's about to throw up. This guy says, where can I click the thumbs down? I think I would have broke the button already. And then this guy says, oh, you mean Jay Clayton that said I did not know these companies while I was in government, but we see he met with them on his public calendar? This is what Brad Combs was talking about this morning. So, and then a lot of but anyway, nothing good is said about this guy, and rightfully so. Charles Gasparino said today, he said, breaking, Senator Toomey, this is a big deal right here, folks. Senator Toomey calls on Gary Gensler to provide crypto regulatory clarity following Fox Business's reporting on the matter. And then they talk about their interview later today with Brad Garlinghouse. And here's the letter. And listen to what he says. Thank you for your testimony, Unfortunately, the SEC it says, for investors' benefit from fair and competitive marketplace, regulators must proactively provide rules of the road to industry. Unfortunately, the SEC has instead adopted a strategy of regulation by enforcement in this area. And then it goes on to use Hester Pierce as an example. It says, my concerns about the SEC's lack of regulatory clarity are shared by others, including SEC commissioners. In one recent enforcement action, SEC Commissioner Hester Pierce and Elad Roisman stated they were disappointed by the SEC's failure to explain which digital assets were securities. They stated this omission was symptomatic of the SEC's reluctance to provide additional guidance about how to determine whether a token is being sold as a part of a securities offering or which tokens are securities. In an effort to obtain the additional guidance, attached are questions for the record for recent hearing. So these jokers, Pat Toomey here is directly going to Gary Gensler. Now, to the Brad Garlinghouse interview. I'm going to play these parts, and I'm going to tell you what I think as we go along. Now the volume's not going to be great, so I'm going to turn this all the way up so that we can hear it as best we can, because this is somebody with their camera out recording me. Okay, so we're going to start with the first one, and we're going to go through all 6 of them, and I'll comment as I go.
And then you brought a suit driving the price down 60 or 70%. You know, if the goal is orderly markets and the goal is to protect investors, I think we've lost picture of lost sight of the big picture of what the SEC's mandate is.
Now Gary Gensler, the current SEC chief, is kind of carrying Jay's water here a little bit. He's continuing the case. Some would say that he's even more he's actually doing more regulation by enforcement than Jay Clayton. What do you think his end game is? Gensler's end game is with you guys and the entire crypto business?
I think his end game is to keep Ripple and XRP in purgatory. I think that's the whole reason he's there.
Obviously, I've read the same information you have about what Coinbase has publicly stated about the SEC's posture towards them. I think we lose sight of the fact that crypto is regulated. It's regulated by the CFTC. It's regulated by other government entities, whether it's FinCEN, the U.S. Treasury. And so when I've heard the SEC people come forward and say, "Hey, this is the wild, wild west. It's not regulated," it's like, well, that's not entirely true. I think the SEC, may want more power over this. And your previously said Bitcoin's not a security, ETH's not a security, and remains silent. There seemed to be kind of backtracking there and said, "Hey, come talk to us." Yet every time someone goes to talk to them from the crypto community, it feels like it's lead generation to bring enforcement actions. That's not a good way.
Well, it's that, and it's to give you 1,000 paper cuts so that you're so frustrated that you just leave.
To help this industry thrive in the United States, as you reported, Charlie.
Thank you.
Brad, if I were on Gary Gensler and Jay Clayton's side of this, which I'm not, I'm just playing devil's advocate. XRP, of course, is the native asset of the XRP blockchain, and it was pre-mined, meaning, with Bitcoin, everybody knows there were an original.
I can hear your voice, yes.
Original 21 million for Bitcoin, but with XRP, it was pre-mined, and their point would really be that they would trade that almost as an asset. You would, and it doesn't sound.
Okay, and then here is part 2.
Clarity, as we've heard from SEC officials, even more recently under Chair Gary Gensler's leadership. And, we can't both say there is clarity and also ask Congress to write new laws to make it clear. Like, both those things can't exist. So I think there's one good example of where they have said, and even a little bit backtracked under Gensler's administration as to whether or not Ether is or is not a security. But there's a lot of lack of clarity.
Yeah, they've backtracked all right. The whole argument was that it was decentralized, and now they're saying that it's just has its infrastructure built out, both of which are a lie.
Been out there publicly with even Liz years ago speaking about the need for this clarity for this industry to thrive here in the U.S.
Do you think there is a conflict of interest between what Jay Clayton does now in private practice? I must admit, I know Jay, I think he's an honest guy, but he does work for companies that do stuff involving crypto, not with your crypto, with Ether and Bitcoin. Do you think that's the conflict of interest that's going on here, that that they've picked winners and losers for business reasons? A lot of people who own XRP believe that. I'm not saying I do, but that's been out there. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, look, Charlie, your reporting, I think, is on point here. And I think the timing, the fact that right on the last day of Chairman Clayton's kind of really final act, as you indicated, brought this lawsuit, I get this question a lot. I don't know what people's intent are, and so I've tried to stay out of that. Suffice it to say, I think the timing stinks. I think it's not a good look. I think we have to go back to what is the mission of the SEC? The mission is to protect investors and help ensure orderly markets. In this case, you have actually more than 10,000 people who are holding the XRP have filed a class action against the SEC.
I've read it.
These are the exact people the SEC is supposed to be protecting, and they're saying, hey, you did the opposite. So you didn't provide clarity. You actually allowed XRP to be listed and traded very freely across the United States.
That's right.
More and more people got involved. It's traded for 8
years. Part 3, here we go.
All over the SEC's case against Ripple XRP. And Charlie, we've got the backdrop of China's most forceful wording to date, banning cryptocurrency. But let's start with you and what you've been breaking regarding Brad and Ripple.
Yeah, and I want to start with questioning with Brad. I want to make one point here. We've reached out to the following people. Jay Clayton, the former SEC chief who brought the case against you guys.
I think the guy that's recording this video might have a blower going in his background. His house is like mine.
It was his last act in office as SEC chief under President Trump. Bill Hinman, the former head of corporate finance, who presumably was part of that decision, since Mr. Hinman headed a lot of the regulatory stuff involving crypto. We've reached out to the people who run Ethereum, because they play a role in this too. We've reached out to the SEC's press office to get in touch with Gary Gensler, because he's continuing the case that Clayton brought. So I guess this is where it comes down to me, Brad. Ripple was charged by the SEC for failure to do disclosures after, if you look at it pretty objectively, I looked at it objectively, doing much the same thing that Ethereum did, but Ethereum and its Ether cryptocurrency has gotten a complete pass. Bill Hinman gave him a pass in his speech, that famous 2018 speech.
That's right. That's the speech that was supposed to be his personal opinion, but we recently found out was ordered by Jay Clayton. The memo was ordered when he's sitting in Andreessen Horowitz's office, and it eventually became the Hinman speech. And for over 3 years, they have told the world that was just his personal opinion. It wasn't the official position of the SEC. 3 years.
Obviously, Jay Clayton has given him a pass because he didn't bring charges so far. Gary Gensler hasn't looked backwards and said, hey, was that a security when you were using...
Yeah, they said setting aside the fact that they raised funds or whatever.
You were using Ether to build out the Ethereum blockchain, and you guys are being dinged because you presumably are using XRP to continue to build out. Why do you think there is these two standards, just from your standpoint?
Look, I'll start, Charlie. Thank you for having me. Liz, thank you for having me. I think there has been and continues to be a lack of clarity. I think the points you're making about the statements the SEC has made about Ether certainly is one example of that. But look, I think as you have reported, Charlie, that if we want this industry to thrive here in the United States, there needs to be clarity. And I don't think we can just continue.
All right, here's part 4. I don't think these parts are necessarily in order.
Like an actual currency, and maybe that's what they're going for. Where do you get sort of the ability to stand up and say, no, that is not an asset, that is a currency? Brad, can you hear us? 1 second. Charlie, I think,
Brad, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay. Liz's question, I guess, might be so.
Whoops. I accidentally cut out of that. Hold on a second. Part 4.
Can you hear us? 1 second. Charlie, I think,
Brad, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay. Liz's question, I guess, might be we have technical difficulties, but what she basically said is, what is the basis that you are not, that you are a currency and not a security? I mean, why? How do you define yourself? Brad?
I find that timing interesting. Maybe the lawyers didn't want him to answer that question.
News here exclusively at Fox. I'm just kidding. Just kidding.
Okay, Brad, what I was asking you before, to play devil's advocate, is simply what you've heard before too, but I need to restate it. Ripple is a little bit different. You've got XRP as the native token or coin or asset, whatever, native asset of the XRP ledger. And you created about 100 billion tokens in advance that were pre-mined, and periodically you release them. At least you own a chunk of that, and periodically you release it. It's almost like you control very much the price, because if you start flooding the market on any given day with more XRP, the price might go down. That feels like an asset versus a currency. And we know that Ether was allowed to do something very similar, but what do you have to really fight through that argument on behalf of the SEC?
Well, there's a whole bunch of things I want to clarify there. I mean, the first and I think maybe most important is that the decentralized open source technology we call the XRP ledger pre-existed the creation of Ripple, the company. So Ripple, the company, never did an ICO referring to initial coin offering. And again, one of the things that we were discussing earlier that Charlie called out, Ether did very publicly do an ICO, initial coin offering,
That's right.
which many people would call a securities offering. That is not what Ripple, the company, has done. There's different ways that these technologies work. One is proof of stake, and that's where the Ethereum community is moving. You have proof of work. That's how the Bitcoin blockchain works, through mining, which it consumes a massive amount of energy. The earliest engineers who created XRP were trying to build a better cryptocurrency, a faster, more scalable, more efficient, and less costly, and certainly massively more efficient from an energy point of view. And I think Ripple has certainly just sought to further the agenda of that XRP community. Owning a lot of XRP and saying that's a security is kind of like news here.
Okay, let's see what else we got. I think he's got 7 parts. Here's the 6th.
That oil is a security of Exxon, or gold is a security of the largest gold mining companies. It just doesn't really make sense.
Well, let me ask Brad a dumb reporter, non-crypto expert question, which is me. Why don't you just give all the disclosure to the SEC like they wanted? Could that have solved the puzzle? Or the problem?
Well, Charlie, look, as you know, Ripple is an extremely transparent company, particularly relative to the crypto industry. If you start treating XRP as a security, however, that means you're subject to a whole lot of regulations, costs associated with a security settlement. If you're using, again, the magic of what is XRP is how incredibly fast and how incredibly cost efficient it is for these cross-border payments, how Ripple deploys the technology. If you start treating it as a security, the costs and speed change dramatically. Okay. And really, that's an example where the SEC is in effect picking the winners and losers of this new industry. And that's not the role of the government in this case.
Yeah. Are you ever going to settle with them? Because I know people like you, I've covered this a million times. Yeah, we're going to get them. We're going to win. We'll win. And then all of a sudden, it's like, let's just settle. Is that going to happen with you guys?
Look, I think that to the extent we can find a constructive path forward with the SEC, we of course want to find that. There's no scenario, though, that we're going to settle unless there's absolute certainty about what is XRP on a go-forward basis. And it's very clear in how Ripple is using these technologies, how many, many scores of other people in the XRP community are using these technologies. They're not securities. They don't represent an ownership in Ripple, the company.
Okay. Brad?
That's the most important thing in the interview, and Mr. BXRP laid it out right here. He said, like a CEO, crushed it. XRP clarity is the key. That's the most important thing. A settlement means nothing with the SEC if you don't have XRP designated as something and you know that you're not going to be sued down the road for something else. So here we go.
And,
last part.
There are people who say, don't take on the government. This is a Coinbase issue right now, where Coinbase came out and initially really came out swinging against the SEC, saying, why are you guys trying to tamp down on our lending idea where we're, yeah, we pay a little bit of interest on this, and now they put it off. They back down. Will you back down? And I know it's different from the question.
This is the last clip.
But is it really smart, and what is your in-house counsel telling you?
Well, I'm going to keep the attorney-client privilege intact, and he'll be happy that I'm not commenting on that specific. Look, we have a clear vision of how XRP can be an incredibly powerful tool, not just for how Ripple is using it for cross-border payments, but how it can be used across other industries. There's a lot of other people in the crypto community, in the XRP community, doing amazing things with XRP. So my view is, look, we're going to keep pointing these things out. We're going to educate the market. We're going to educate the judge involved here. And, I think as we have discussed here, I don't think the role of the SEC should be to pick winners and losers. And there's a lot of conflicts that I think we as an industry deserve and need the clarity so that the U.S. can thrive in this industry, just as we did in the Internet of Information 20 years ago.
Good point. Excellent.
And we will keep pointing out the conflicts. As long as they want this travesty to go on, we're going to be forced. I don't want to do it. I want to talk about digital assets, but we're going to be forced to talk about all of the conflicts and all of the things where it's not right. I'm the digital asset investor. I'm not an investment advisor. This is for entertainment purposes only. Please subscribe, hit the like button. Tell your friends and family that I'm about to go pour a glass of wine here in a little bit because I am tired. Thanks for listening.